Okay, Damian Tucker here. I'm still up here in Alaska working remote, fixing Alaska's critical infrastructure, crushing a lot of rocks. Anyways, I'm stuck up here for another 3 weeks, but my mind has also been back on the three-wheeler stuff. I know like some people are selling kits again and whatnot. After what they pulled last time, I'm just gonna not label our parts as three-wheeler conversion kits. Anybody who knows anything about the subject knows like we offer universal parts. I mean, use them for whatever you want. Anyhow, let's talk about a couple things here because I've been seeing a lot of interesting things on the internet. So a lot of people that think they're experts, but let me just chime in here. So first of all, you have a dirt bike frame, right? So say you got 27 degrees of rake. So that's depicted here, a dirt bike. So if you got 27 degrees of rake, when your forks bottom out and your rear shock bottoms out here, because this angle is also very important, and your linkage setup. So your dirt bike rear shock is designed to bottom out at a certain point. It has a stroke. So your forks also bottom out at a certain point. You'll have a little bit of room left when you bottom out when it's a dirt bike. Now, if you were to turn that dirt bike into, let's say, a three-wheeler, then if you left this rake the same, and then let's say you flatten this angle out, like some of the things I see going on, to try to get your seat height down, and you put smaller diameter tires on them, okay? Not to mention if you change the offset, you push your forks further forward, that's gonna make it bottom out even worse, right? So if you play with these things, it's also going to change where it bottoms out. So let's just go back here. If you just put smaller tires on, let's say you even match this angle, not make it worse, then when you bottom out, the frame's gonna hit the ground because this maxed out, they're designed for these, like, let's say 28-inch tires. You drop it down to I run a 23 and 18s, 20s, 22s. But let's say you did like a 21 or 22 because you have excessive rake. This obviously has negative rake. But when you do negative rake clamps, you also have to set those up correctly. With the proper offsets, it might be different, from top to bottom. So you got to set those up properly. You got to have the proper rake. You have to have the proper trail and the proper diameter tire, all to make this work together cohesively. Not to mention this angle has to be correct in the rear here on your swing arm. But leading back to the earlier things we were talking about, if you have a dirt bike rear shock, it's still going to bottom out the same point, yes? So there's two ways to fix this issue. Either you run a quad rear shock, different linkage setup, and knuckle, where it's going to bottom out differently with the smaller size tires, or you have to make this angle even more extreme. You would have to bring your swing arm past the starting point to accommodate for the smaller tires. That way the dirt bike shock bottoms out in the same point. So a lot of people, don't think about any of these concepts. So like a lot of the stuff out there won't steer because of the rake or the offset. Even if you have good rake, if you put your fork tubes too far away from the stem, it creates handling issues. So you have to think about all of these factors together. They have to work cohesively. So in order to do that, there's a lot of math, a lot of testing, a lot of trial and error. So what I always recommend is first you get your swing arm right. Your swing arm setup is the most critical. Get that correct, where the rear is set up. Okay, then you work on the front. So when we designed our stuff, we did the rear first. We still had dirt bike rake. There was some hard spots to steer in the handling, but they were still very usable because we got the rear end correctly. If you have a flat swing arm angle, you're never going to achieve this. So once you get this set up properly, then you bring the rake in. So I apologize for this little drawing here. It's definitely not that great. I'm just sitting up here in my travel trailer, but it's been on my mind. So once you bring the rake in with negative clamps, it actually allows this to bottom out at a different point because now you're more up and down, right? If you're out here, it's going to bottom out sooner than when you're here. So then you can run a 23-inch tire instead of like a 27, 28. But if you leave it out like that, then your front end's still going to bottom out even if you fix the rear. So when you're building a conversion, if you have bad offset, bad rake, dirt bike rear shock, flat swing arm, it's going to smack the ground every time, probably not steer. Once you set up all these things, Then you worry about your subframe and your seat, all that stuff. So typically what I would do is you need to find a dirt bike with the proper frame to begin with. If it has a good frame design, then you start accommodating all these other features. Once you do all that, you actually have a three-wheeler and not a dirt bike with three wheels. This is Damian Tucker. I'm signing out.